how the 49ers are putting Trey Lance, whether they know it or not, they're putting him in a position where he has to be elite right away. There is really no room for growth for him at this point.
Yeah, the margin of error is pretty slim for Trey Lance right now because the 49ers are relying on him to push them over the top in their next 2 to 3 years. That's their Super Bowl window with Trey Lance because they already wasted a year of his contract not playing him. And with these rookie guys, you only get 4 years of their deal before they become expensive, before you're paying them $40 million, and you have to make cuts on the rest of your roster, like we see the Chiefs dealing with right now. Like we see so many of these teams who eventually have to sign these elite quarterbacks to these max contracts. Your team is going to get worse. And right now with the 49ers, they're putting so much pressure on Trey Lance to be elite for a few reasons. For one, they invested like so much draft capital in him. It's pretty ridiculous.
They gave the Deshaun Watson package up for the 3 first-round picks they spent on him. He was their first-round pick last year, their first-round pick this year, and their first-round pick next year. No matter how they want to say it, that's what happened.
Yeah, I mean, I think looking at the packages comparatively, like to the Rams, they didn't even spend as close to as much on Matthew Stafford, who's a known quantity. Yeah, and they were paying him
3 firsts for Lance.
They were paying him $20 million. And on top of all of that, they're also keeping Jimmy Garoppolo in their quarterback room. Right now, the 49ers have the second most expensive quarterback room in the NFL. The only team higher is the Tennessee Titans. So the entire benefit of having Trey Lance on the rookie deal is null. It doesn't matter anymore.
You're spending it on his backup quarterback.
Exactly.
It's like if the Rams traded for Stafford, but gave up more and kept Goff because they weren't quite sure. That's what they did. The Niners did. Hey, you can be our quarterback, but you better be great because we still like Jared Goff. We went to a Super Bowl, Jared. Like, thanks for the vote of confidence, dude. Yeah. Do you want me or not? What do you want to do?
Yeah. And by the time Trey Lance even potentially becomes the player they want him to become, my biggest fear right now is that they'll price out the rest of their team because they have to pay Trey Lance, right? If he becomes the player they want and the player they traded up for, they're going to be paying him at minimum $40 million a year in year 5. That with quarterbacks, you don't get to do the 5th-year option. You don't get to do the franchise tag thing, not with young quarterbacks, not in that kind of way. Yeah. It's really expensive, and they have this roster in place already that they could have made better around Trey Lance. Instead, they're keeping the current-ish roster / making the offensive line worse, adding one corner and making their special teams better. So in my mind, they could have taken all the advantages that Trey Lance affords them with his rookie deal, poured all those assets into making them great this offseason. Or, you know what, if you don't want to do it this offseason, you can do the plan we were talking about and do it next offseason. But they don't seem to be doing that right now. So unless they are actually willing to cut Jimmy Garoppolo before week 1, if they can't trade him, this plan is ridiculous. And it was ridiculous when it happened in the first place, Grant. If I told you a year ago today that the 49ers would have Jimmy Garoppolo and the quarterback they drafted on their roster, what would your reaction be?
I probably wouldn't do a show with you anymore. Like, this guy's crazy. He just says anything. I'm not inviting him back. Are you kidding me? Yeah.
And I think even the most –
there's so many ways the Niners could have taken pressure off of Lance. You could have made the offensive line better. You could have taken Jimmy Garoppolo out of the locker room and gotten him off the team. You could have really brought in a lot of other players, so it wasn't all about the quarterback. But now it's like they went to the NFC Championship game, and they're going to make a switch at quarterback, but they're keeping Jimmy there. So it's basically the thing is like, hey, man, if you falter at all, we're going back to Jimmy. Because we know that there's a base level of success we can achieve with him, and you better put us over the top. You better show within a month that we're going to win the Super Bowl this year with you. Otherwise, we're just going to say you're not ready. You need a little bit more aging in fine French oak barrels, and we're going to go back to Jimmy. I mean, that's the kind of that's the pressure it's at. Like, you got to be an MVP candidate, or you got to have us like 13-4. Otherwise, there's no time for you to grow on the job, buddy. We're gonna switch right back. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like switching from your girlfriend to your side chick, but you'd be like, hey, you better have this down day one. You better be the best girlfriend. You better have everything. Otherwise, I'm going back. Because she's a really good cook. We may not get along that well, but her food, phenomenal. So you better.
I already have my stuff at her apartment,
and I'm not going to do anything. That's how the Niners are acting right now. It's like, man, I don't feel like you're setting up your next girlfriend for success. I feel like she's going to let you down.
No, and if Trey Lance plays next season, even if he's looking good by the end of the season, what if the 49ers are 9-8 and they miss the playoffs? What's the reaction going to be like then? Because everyone talks about how much of a winner Jimmy Garoppolo is, right?
Yeah.
How's that going to look when he doesn't make the playoffs? Or if you do make the playoffs, Grant, let's say best case scenario, you win the division. If you don't get to the NFC Championship game, there will still be all these people who will tell you, hey, no, Trey isn't ready yet. They should have stuck with Jimmy. Look how far they got with it. Like all this sort of pressure that is just completely unnecessary.
How many fans and fan journalists are itching to say, hey, the Niners would have made it to the NFC Championship game if they kept Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, that tweet is already scheduled. That's in the drafts so that they can put it as soon as the 49ers don't make it to the NFC Championship. Niners would have made it. Oh, word? You sure? Jimmy, how many games would Jimmy Garoppolo last without Laken Tomlinson on the offensive line? I mean, we took Weston Richburg out, and Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt. What was it? Week 2,
I believe,
in 2020. You took one starter out. Now you take out Laken Tomlinson, who's better than Weston. Okay, I'm just saying. I have a bad feeling that the Niners keep Jimmy, and Trey's a starter, and both quarterbacks end up playing and both end up getting hurt because, I mean, they're not really setting up any quarterback for success. I have a bad feeling that Nate Sudfeld's going to start a game this season. I don't want to put that out. Maybe I reverse jinxed. I have a bad feeling that Sudfeld's going to play football this year. That's the worst possible outcome. So hopefully that doesn't happen.